Level 1. The console trainee. You are 22 years old, looking at a room that does not look real. Rows of black consoles curve in the dark like an amphitheater built for the end of the world. 50 screens glow green and amber. Nobody has told you to be afraid yet, but you are. You are not allowed to touch anything. Not yet. You wear a headset that costs more than your car, listening to voices trading acronyms at the speed of thought. A private language you don't understand yet, but will soon speak in your sleep. Here is the question this video answers. What does it cost to become one of the few people on Earth trusted to sit in that chair? The one where a wrong word, in the wrong second, ends a mission. You will spend the next 20 years chasing this feeling. Your first assignment isn't a mission, it's homework. Thousands of pages on one subsystem. You won't touch a real console for a year. Instead, a simulation supervisor invents catastrophes just to watch you fail them. Engine fire. Depressurization. 2 failures stacked. 10 seconds on the clock. You get it wrong 11 times. On the 12th, something clicks. The failure and the fix arrive together, like reflex instead of thought. Your instructor doesn't say good job. He just stops making it harder. In this room, that's the whole vocabulary of praise. You go home and can't explain any of it. You've been trained to describe your entire day in 9 words. Fine. Worked. Sims. Nothing I can talk about. You have no idea yet what you've signed up for. Level 2. The certified. 2 years in, you sit for the board. 6 controllers grilling you from memory, no notes. People fail this and quietly disappear from the program. You pass. Barely by your own account. Brilliantly. By everyone else's. Someone hands you a laminated card with your call sign on it. It weighs almost nothing. You won't understand for 15 years how much it actually weighs. For the first time, you work a real console during a real launch. Not the center chair, a backroom seat feeding data forward. 342 seconds to orbit, the longest of your life. You say nothing, because your entire job is to say nothing unless something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. A voice says, copy nominal. It's the most emotional sentence you've ever heard. You don't explain how a backroom voice can, in one sentence, ground $1 billion vehicle. That's the correct answer. The less it sounds like power, the more of it you actually hold. You've just accepted a schedule that doesn't care what year it is in your own life. Level 3. The rules. Nobody hands you a map of this world. You draw it yourself. Insult by insult. Front room, back room. Each front room seat, Capcom, Ecom, Guido, Fido sits above 20 specialists deep, feeding one distilled sentence forward. At a time, the person on camera is often just the last narrow mouth of a much wider brain. Above them all sits one chair, the flight director holding something close to legal authority over a spacecraft carrying human lives. The rulebook says it plainly. Flight directors may take any action necessary for the mission or the crew's safety. Not a metaphor. A reflex, drilled in until it isn't a rule anymore. You learn the currency here isn't rank. It's trust, and trust is rationed. A mistake gets a shrug. A lie gets you gone within the week. Nobody raises their voice. Somebody just says, you're off console. And that's a small apocalypse. You learn the go-no-go poll. 1 word per console, and the newest voice in the room can outrank everyone's senior. Because the rule isn't seniority. The rule is data. You've just learned exactly how small your 2-second window really is. Level 4. The cost begins. Missions don't pause for weddings. You miss your best friends. Then 2 birthdays until invitations quietly stop arriving. You are 26, and your life is already smaller than most adults will ever experience. Overnight shift rotations rearrange your body clock like furniture nobody asked you about. You date someone outside the program. It goes well for 4 months. Long enough for them to fall for the version of you that shows up rested and present. Then a mission swallows 2 straight weeks, and they say the thing people in this world hear constantly. I feel like I'm dating your job. You don't have a rebuttal, because it's essentially true. A controller 2 rows over gets a call that a parent's been hospitalized. He finishes the shift anyway. Not forced to, just built that way now. You watch him do it and understand you're being shaped into someone who could do the same. You start saying, we lost pressure. Not it. We. You are becoming a job that happens to have a person still attached to it. Level 5. The breakdown. 6 years in, you're senior enough to be trusted with something that actually matters. And that's exactly when it happens. A sensor reading on your console doesn't match the one beside it. You call it out. You're certain you're right. You're wrong. The correction cost the mission 40 minutes on a day when 40 minutes mattered. The flight director says 4 flat words. Stand by, working it. The exact same tone used for a nominal orbit insertion. And that steadiness is somehow worse than being yelled at. You're debriefed for 2 hours after the shift ends. Not punished. This room doesn't really do punishment. Interrogated calmly so the same 40 minutes never gets lost twice. You go home and can't sleep replaying the same 7 numbers at 3 a.m. Convinced you can still feel the shape of the mistake if you just look at it one more time. A retired controller who trained you tells you, the bad calls don't go away, you just get more good ones stacked on top. It isn't comforting, it's just true. You are a person whose worst 4 minutes are now, and forever will be, permanently part of the official mission record. Level 6. Power up. Life down. You make senior console, your own call sign on the front room loop, a back room now answering to you instead of the other way around. The access changes. You're read into mission details months before the public timeline. The calendar stops being yours. It belongs to a mission timeline set years in advance. A local gym, a local pool, a local bar. The map of your actual life has shrunk to almost nothing outside the drive between your apartment and this building. You know the parking attendant's name better than most of your neighbors. You notice something about the senior people around you. A striking number are divorced, or married to someone inside the same program. Someone who doesn't need the 9-word version explained. The higher you climb in this room, the smaller the room around your actual life becomes. And nobody warned you both things would happen at exactly the same rate. Level 7. Peak pressure. You lead one of the most dangerous stretches in spaceflight. Entry. When a returning spacecraft slams into the atmosphere at several times the speed of sound, wrapped in a plasma sheath that blacks out every channel completely. For those minutes, nothing you say reaches the crew, and nothing they say reaches you. You built the plan months ago. Now you just trust it. The blackout ends. 11 extra seconds of nobody speaking because there's nothing useful left to say. Then a signal returns. Nobody cheers. Not really. You exhale once and start the next checklist. One mistake here doesn't cost a schedule slip. It costs a spacecraft, or worse. You've crossed a line. There's no going back to a version of this job where a wrong call is merely expensive. You are the person 100 million people are quietly trusting without knowing your name. Level 8. The summit in view. You're told, quietly in a hallway rather than a meeting, that your name is on the shortlist for flight director. A title fewer people, across the entire history of the role, have held than have walked on the moon. You start shadow shifts, technically observing, unofficially being graded every second by people who all know exactly what you're there for. The paranoia sets in exactly where you'd expect. A compliment might be genuine, or might be a variable in your evaluation. You can't always tell which. The call comes, not a ceremony, just a chief flight director listing your first 3 assigned missions in the same breath as congratulations. You sit in the parking garage for 11 minutes afterward, trying to locate the person who once stood terrified in a doorway at 22, still somewhere underneath everything the years built on top. You have the title now. You still have to prove it. Live on an open mission loop. Level 9, the apex. You sit in the center chair for the first time as flight director of record. An ordinary console, an ordinary headset. No throne, just 30 colleagues who now answer to a single word from you. Go or no go. Midway through the mission, a real anomaly surfaces. Not a drill, not a sim. 2 systems disagreeing, both claiming to be right. Every eye in the room turns to your console without anyone saying so. You run the go-no-go poll. 9 consoles answer in under 30 seconds. 2 say no-go. You weigh their reasoning against everything the last 8 levels taught your instincts without you noticing they were teaching you anything. You make the call. It holds. 40 minutes later, the discrepancy resolves exactly as you guessed. Nobody applauds. Somebody just says copy and moves to the next item. And that flat non-reaction is the highest compliment this world knows how to give. You are wearing the exact authority that laminated card once described to you as a rookie. And it turns out that kind of power doesn't feel like power. It feels like the loneliest kind of trust there is. Level 10. The ghost. Decades pass in a sentence the way they always do once you're inside a life instead of watching it. You train 100 other terrified 22-year-olds through the same doorway you once stood in. You retire the way almost everyone here eventually does. Not a parade, just a final gopher landing and a quiet dinner with people who understand what those 2 words cost. Someone hands you a small box. Inside is the original laminated card from your first certification, edges soft and rounded from decades in a wallet. You pick it up, and it's exactly as light as you remember. Except it doesn't feel light anymore. It contains every missed wedding, every 3 a.m. replay of a 4-minute mistake, every silent blackout, every copy nominal that meant more than applause ever could. You visit the old room sometimes as a guest, standing at the back while a new generation runs missions you can no longer keep up with in real time. Your call sign belongs to someone else now. The room doesn't remember you. It was never built to. It was only ever built to remember the mission. You are the ghost in a room you gave the best years of your life to, and you would do every hour of it again. Somewhere right now, a 6-year-old is watching a launch on a screen, not understanding a single word of the acronyms crackling over the broadcast, feeling only the pull of something enormous and impossible calling their name specifically. She has no idea what she's about to become. They'll figure it out. They always do. The cycle continues.